All right, kids. Update on Hunty's D4 woes and mental anguish. So I made a video the other day. You sunk my Charlic because I'm just feeling like the Charlic Gambit is getting defused, maybe just too easily, and I'm looking for something to play against 1D4 that is aggressive, but that will stand up in a classical over-the-board game, because I just don't really feel confident going up against a 1600, 1700 rated player when he's got 75 minutes on the clock and playing something that is just categorically unsound, like the England Gambit into the Charlic. Okay, so I've had a little look around, and I'm going to revisit something that I looked into a couple of years ago, which is the Benko, which comes from the Benoni defense. And so what I've done is I've started building a study on this on Lichess, which is public. You're welcome to come and browse this, make a copy of it, do whatever you want. And as part of that, I started looking into like the main line. Well, what are White's most common moves, and what should we play? And I thought that I'd actually pick up like a full game out of that. So this is a game played between a 2200 and a 2100, Adivraz and Carletto 1111. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone through like the first 20 or so moves, and I've annotated the game myself in Lichess, right? And the point of this is to understand the ideas behind the opening. And I think that the more existing games that you, real life games that you review from players of all kinds of different levels, the better the feel you'll get for. So this is the point, that openings are not just about memorizing the first few moves, memorizing the theory for 4 or 5 moves. Openings are about creating, getting you into a middle game that you're going to enjoy playing, that suits your style, and so on and so forth. So that's my kind of purpose here. So let's go through it. So Carletto has the white pieces, starts with D4. And we proceed with the, I think it's, well, I mean, it calls it the Indian defense. So I think the idea is this is the modern Benoni, not the old. I think the old Benoni might have proceeded straight with C5. I'm not sure about this. And now C4. Okay, so by the way, knight F6 is black's best scoring response, but you know, it's move 1, for goodness sake. So white pushes C4, right? Why is white pushing C4? Well, he's wanting to stake a big claim on the center from the queen side. And black has so far abstained from developing any pawns and controlling the center with pawns. That is not the point here. But now what we do is we kind of launch in and just attack white's pawns relentlessly. So the Benoni here continues with pawn to C5. So we're attacking this pawn in the center. We're attacking it with the wing pawn. And it doesn't really make sense for white to capture away from the center at all. That move just, it's played 1 in 30 games, and black wins 53% from there. So might be worth looking into, but it's a pretty easy. So white's going to have double pawns. You probably just develop your knight and crack on. You're off to the races. Yeah. So the most common move by far here is D5. This is played 70% of the time. And of course, white would like to be developing. He doesn't really want to be overextending his pawns in the middle of the board. He wants to get his knights out, wants to get his bishops out, you know. But there really is no other, good option, because we're just going to take with a wing pawn, and he's got no d pawn left. So black actually wins 51% from this point at 1800, 2000 level on Lichess. Okay, so how do we continue? Right, and this is what I like about the opening. I'm getting a nice feel for this. B5. It's all right. I'm going to have a pop at your rear pawn, which is, by the way, also undefended now. Okay, I mean that one was defended by the queen, but you don't want to queen takes, knight c6 for free, you know. So now again, we're attacking that. What are they going to do? Well, the most common move by far. I mean, B3 is not good. E3 defending with the bishop is not good. So all of these I'm going to explore, probably in their own little chapters. Most common move that you'll get is, this is the Benko Gambit accepted. Right, this is now the Benko Gambit. And more often than not, they will accept the gambit more than half the time. And now we proceed with offering another pawn. So this is kind of Danish style, you know. So what's the idea? Well, if they take the pawn, we can now recapture with the light squared bishop. And white has invested a lot of, all white's moves so far have been pawn moves with these two pawns. So then white's got nothing else to show for his trouble, for his time, in the first like 6, 7 moves. If we do this. So if they take here, you can take with the light square bishop, right? And that kind of pins the e-pawn as well, which again adds to white's woes here. It's worth adding as well that I have kind of validated that the Benko is a perfectly reasonable, playable opening at all levels. Kasparov has played the Benko. Carlsen has played the Benko. This is not it's not a dubious opening. It's a perfectly valid opening, with the advantage that it's very aggressive. Okay, and that's exactly what I'm looking for, right? And it's a gambit. So cool. I looked at one video where people were assessing different gambits, and they said it's so good it's almost not like a gambit, right? Because you get so much compensation for the pawn. So right now we're a pawn down. Okay. Now in the game they take. The most common move now by some margin, 62% of the time, is just to take back. That kind of pins this, because if this e-pawn ever moves to e3 or e4, your bishop then gets to snatch off white's light squared bishop. The king has to recapture and give up castling rights. That's a general idea. Now, Adivraz here does not do that. He decides to proceed with his kind of King's Indian setup on the king's side. White develops a knight. Finally, move 6, white gets to develop his first piece. Right? It's all been pawns for the first 5 moves. Adivraz fianchettos, they bring out their other knight with castle. Right? All good. There goes the e-pawn. Now, because he hasn't got his bishop on here yet, he can't go for this immediate tactic. All right? But he has other ideas. Out comes the queen to a5. Queen to a5 pins the knight on the king. Right? It also kind of attacks this pawn. Well, it does attack it because we've now got 2 attackers on the pawn. Right? White's next move is pretty natural. They're going to break the pin. And in fact, this is more than breaking a pin. It's actually, you know, setting up a discovery against the queen herself. So black now captures the pawn with one of his 3 pieces that could do it. Obviously, the queen's not a good idea, but he captures with there. We trade and queen takes. And this is the point now. He's got his queen onto a6, stopping white from castling. White would now have to castle through check, and you ain't allowed to do it. Excuse me. So, pretty happy situation, right? We have an awkward bishop. The knights are fine. We've allowed white to have this centre. But we're going to try and prove that centre is not really the asset that it not very often is, you know. Queen comes out proposing a trade, and black just goes, I'm going to build my pawn wall. Okay, I've now got a nice, tidy little pawn structure, king safely tucked away, well-placed knight. Why not? White trades off, slightly inaccurate, but white nearly always does it, actually. Nearly always plays this move. 234 games at my level, 83.9% of the time they snatched the queen. All right, no other ideas. We recapture with a knight, and black wins 61%, 62% of the time now from here. 62%. Now we don't have to go through the whole game. That's not the point. Okay. I spy with my little eye. Something beginning with O, an open file. Rook FB8. And now we're really going to try and put some pressure on here. This knight, although it looks awkward on the rim. All right, Bentley, is that you coming down the stairs like a bag of spuds? Okay. They push pawn, and our knight starts to infiltrate into the position. So, I mean, the game goes on for another 50 moves. Right? That's not the point. And you can go through it if you want to. There's thousands of games recorded online if you want to do it. It's a really good way, though, I think, to understand the soul of an opening, understand the concept, the ideas of an opening. But I like this position. Right? So here we have push pawn. Now that this knight rotates around, pinning this knight against the rook. They move their rook, and we start to attack into the board. I'm liking this. This looks fine. So what I'm looking forward to is the opportunity to play this 10, 20 times in blitz and just see if we get on, a little bit of speed dating. But it's all looking good from here. So yeah, if you're like me and you're looking for a good aggressive response to d4, this might be right up your street. And you will get it a reasonable amount of the time as well. This is kind of the point, You bring your knight out. The most common move is pawn c4. 1 in 2 games they play pawn c4. I mean, yeah, you might get a London, you might get an accelerated London player, you might get knight f3. You're going to face all these things from time to time, but half the time you're going to get this, and you get to go straight into the Benoni. And d5 is the most common move, and then you get the Benko, right? And takes is the most common move, and takes is the So you're going to get this a lot of the time. White is not going to be that familiar with it. You're going to be much more familiar. So there you go. Thought I'd just bring you guys up to date on my repertoire thinking. But this seems to have legs, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I haven't had the chance to play it yet. Too many London players around at the 1400 level. Need to get my rating back up. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. See you later.